So you want to know all about the astral plane and what it would be like to travel from this material plane to another material plane in an entirely different campaign setting. How would you get from Toril, the planet that is the Forgotten Realms campaign setting? How would you go from there all the way over to Krynn, the world in Dragonlance? Because you could travel there. What would happen if you got into a Spelljammer, this ship that can fly with magical means? What would happen if you got into one, pointed it up to the sky, and just went? Because right now, if your crazy player started to do that, what would happen? Do you know how to run that off? Well, I'm here to help answer that question of how the astral plane works, how it all fits together physically, because I very much feel like there should be some real physics going on with this fantasy setting world for us to be able to, us dungeon masters and maybe even players, to wrap their heads around. Because no offense to Dungeons and Dragons, but the last Spelljammer resource, I heard a huge outcry from the community of, we need a resource, this is missing this, it's missing that, it's too small, all these different types of things. I am here to solve that problem once and for all right now. I hear you guys, and me and my team came together and we made a absolutely massive resource on spelljamming and everything having to do with the space in towards the outer planes, out towards other settings. I'm here to fill in the gaps that all of the different things that dungeon masters need to be able to know how to run space. The books did not cut it as far as what you need to know and feel comfortable with. I read through it all. I was like, no, I have a lot of questions. But now I got a lot of answers that we're going to dive into right now. This video is going to be about the astral plane, how it works in the big picture of the cosmology, what it's like to go from one place to another. I've also added some different tweaks and interpretations to how everything works, into it, how it all fits in a really clean way that makes a lot of sense. Everything here I'm going to be talking about is in that mega PDF about Spelljammer that we'll talk about later in the video. And I'm doing a huge giveaway that we're talking about later in the video. I'm doing it absolutely massive, the biggest giveaway we've ever done on the channel, all having to do with Spelljammer and stuff. You can get all 3 books and a bunch of other stuff, but we'll talk about all that later. We gotta do some spell jamming. It's time to spell jam. Everybody dance now. It's time to spell jam. Come on, come on, come on, come on. All right, here's how it works. I got some props for you. Okay, so here's the material plane. Look at it. In our world, this would be Earth, which is a fuzzy dog ball. But in the Forgotten Realms, this is called Toril. It's literally a planet, and in the case of this, it's actually only one planet in this whole situation, which makes things a little easier for our interpretation. And I'll use Earth and how it would apply this setting towards Earth if this was real. But here's each of the parts we're going to get to, and once we get to a new part, I'll stop and explain it. So I'm going to hit you with some vocabulary terms, and then we'll talk about each one as you go through. You're going to have the material plane, then you're going to have Wildspace, then you're going to reach an astral sphere of some kind. And then you're out into the Astral Sea. You've probably heard of the Astral Sea before. And then we'll talk about how you get into the other places from there. But we got to get all the way through there with some props. Here we go. This is the material plane. And everything between the material plane and this strainer, which is the Astral Sphere strainer, everything between these two is Wildspace. If you were to leave this ball and start traveling outwards, you'd be traveling through Wildspace. All the stuff, all the area up here, all in this area. As you travel up through Wildspace and hit this edge, there is an edge here at the very edge of this plane, and you were touching the astral sphere. In older editions, this was called a crystal sphere, which I don't agree with just the naming of that in general. Astral sphere, it makes more sense to me. It was removed in 5th edition, but I'm bringing it back because it just makes more sense. And basically, the astral sphere wraps up everything into one ball. Everything having to do with this campaign setting is contained within this ball, except for the outer planes. We'll get to the outer planes on the outside, outer planes, here in a second. But everything in here, all the inner planes, all of the things going on, the deities, the everything having to do with this is all contained within this crystal sphere. Now, keep in mind, this would be a complete circle. So I guess we should do it like this, right? But I'm showing you the 3D version. So everything that this contains is inside. So if you were traveling from the material plane and you wanted to leave your astral sphere, you wanted to enter into the astral plane, how would you do that? You would get on your Spelljammer and you would start flying upwards, entering space. Just as we in our real worlds right now, with people travel into space. You get into Spelljammer or ship or whatever, and you start going upwards. And you would enter into space. We'll get into the mechanics of that here in a second, but I'm trying to get y'all's heads to wrap around this big picture here. You would enter into space, and this space looks very similar, if not identical, to the space we know. Black skies, little starlights. But at some point, you will start to reach an edge of space. It's not infinite, like, you know, we're not trying to talk about real science stuff here. You would get to an edge. That edge is the astral sphere. In order to get through the astral sphere, we've created a spell that you would use. This is a 2nd level spell. The full thing's in the PDF. But basically, you cast the spell to temporarily open a portal to be able to fly through. So now you get to this edge, you're in the wild space of things. You get to that edge and then you cast a spell. It temporarily opens up a hole, like a hole in the ozone layer if you want to think of it like that. You fly through it and enter the Astral Sea. So really the Astral Plane in general is comprised of two parts. You have the wild space, which is that little fuzzy area pocket in between these two things. And then you have the Astral Sea, which is infinite in its expanse, and that is the absolutely crazy, infinite, wispy void. I'll have pictures up on the screen floating around to paint the picture of it. That is very different than what space is. And a big thing in D&D is I'm not a big fan of D&D in space. I always felt that was just a weird, bad explanation of Spelljammer because I don't personally like that. It doesn't excite me. The Astral Sea is crazy cool. Back to the props. Now we've left the Astral Sphere. We are flying outwards now in the Astral Sea. And now we can go to any other crystal sphere. There's plenty of other crystal spheres floating around wherever else. You're in this infinite soup of the Astral Sea and you can fly around towards in your Spelljammer to other entire bodies, other entire astral spheres that within them contain entire campaign settings with inner planes, outer planes, gods, and all that. So now let me show you a picture to maybe help wrap your head around this. All right, here's a diagram. I used to be a teacher, so I think this is important. Here's the material plane. We're not going to talk about anything else about as far as the ethereal, Feywild, all that kind of stuff. If y'all want to see more videos on that and these type of planar videos, let me know because I have full entire things we're doing for that as well. And stay tuned because in about 2 months from now, I'm doing a whole thing on the Beastlands, so stay tuned for that. But anyway, this is the material plane, and we have all the inner planes, and then outside of here, we have the outer planes, and these are all 16 of the outer planes, all with really cool stuff going on there. Now, this picture I don't think is accurate anymore, so I got an artist of mine, Bug, to redo this map. Ooh, wow, look at this. This makes a lot more sense now. So inside of this, we have the material plane. So we're in the material plane, and then now that's a whole nother thing if you want to try and go to the plane of air, water, and there's like portals and different elements. You swim down into the waters, you go into the water plane, all these different things about the elemental plane. So ignore those. We're only focusing on going into the Astral Sea and getting out of this crystal sphere. So this diagram shows that you are inside of the material plane. So this ball right here would be the material plane. In between here is all of the wild space. Everything in here is all wild space as you fly out towards the crystal sphere. And once you get here, you got to stop, open up that crystal sphere and get through it. And once you get through it, now you're into the Astral Sea. And one thing here now also, I'll go ahead and talk about this now. Where are all these outer planes? I like to have a physical representation of where these things are. Now, if you leave the crystal sphere and you turn around, you look, you're not going to see a bunch of floating balls in order just like that. They are going to be a little bit more translucent and transparent, but I view that the outer planes are right directly around their host astral sphere, or crystal sphere for this case. The outer planes of any sort of astral sphere are floating directly around the outside in whatever orientation that they want. They could be in random places, they could be in a ring almost like Saturn, and you could travel through it. In fact, a very good interpretation I could see is having it literally be like a ring of Saturn, where you have these orbits of these different outer planes with the rivers flowing through them. If you don't know, there's a river flowing through all these planes. There's a river Oceana flowing through the outer positive planes, and the river Styx. It turns into the river Styx and it flows to the negative planes. So I could very much see that being a physical representation on the outside of this crystal sphere, where there's this like water flowing around the outside. Or you can have it be translucent, or have it not be there and have it be this like foggy close thing. But any astral sphere is directly connected and close to all of its outer planes that are there. So if you wanted to go to Arborea for whatever reason, let's say the Beastlands, because we're going to be going there soon, you would travel through here, you could fly through the crystal sphere, and you'd be outside, and you would then have to go and search around for these different portals. In the Astral Sea, there's different portals, and they are color-coded based on the different planes. And now that's also different for different campaign settings. So each of these, it has a corresponding color that they would go to. So let's say the Beastlands is green for all the nature and stuff inside of there. So you would fly around this crystal sphere looking for a green portal. That might be a hard thing to do. And then you might find one, fly through it, and you're in the Beastland. And those Beastlands portals, and all of those portals towards all of these planes, would be somewhat localized, close proximity to where the crystal sphere is. And if you start flying outwards and leave that crystal sphere and leave off into the distance, you wouldn't see them anymore. But you might start to see other crystal spheres portals to their outer planes, and then now you're in a whole separate section. I think I can get rid of this now. Oh, the ball fell. And also, let me say this is the last thing that I don't think was addressed at all in any sort of official documents, but here's a great, perfect explanation for this. We've already talked about Toril and going from this fantasy setting to another one, but what about Earth? Let's apply this to Earth, because Earth has other planets in it. There's other planets floating around there. How would that look in a D&D setting? Because there could totally be campaign settings like our Earth where they have multiple planets, and maybe that's a part of a thing where there's different planets and it's all separated based on planets. And if you really want to do something like that, how would that look? So I need the balls again. Here we go. So if there was another planet, let's say we're going to use our solar system. We have Earth, and then let's say this is Mars. So if you want to go from Earth to Mars, we have our own astral sphere, right? It's back, okay? And we are inside of this, wherever this thing is. Let me try and hold it, right? And then if we were to leave, there'd be another planet with it inside. Can y'all see this? Is this even good? Yeah, there would be another planet inside of that astral sphere. So you'd go through Wildspace, not having to go through the edge of the actual astral sphere, crystal sphere, whatever you want to call it. You wouldn't have to go through that because all the planets are contained within that sphere. So there'd be Earth, Mars, Jupiter, all that kind of stuff, all here. You would get on your Spelljammer, you would fly outwards, very much like what we have happening now. So you'd get on your Spelljammer, you'd fly upwards into the distance, go through all the atmospheric layers and all that kind of stuff, whatever. And then you keep going, and there's other planets within the astral sphere that you could travel to, go to, and then if you want to take that and take it to a whole nother fantasy level, you have each planet's a different race, and you know, planet of dwarves, planet of elves, planet of dragons. What's going on? Who knows? And I got one more picture for you. Here we go. The art team also put this together for you guys just in case you see the big picture. So we have a star of some kind in your settings as well. There is a sun out there. The sun rises and sets, even in the campaign of Toril, whatever. There's a sun somewhere, and planets are orbiting around that. Cool. All that stuff's happening. So let's say that this is Earth, or let's say that this is Toril, whatever it is. Right? You're in a material plane, one of many possibly, who knows? And then as you're in Wildspace, this is the astral void. We call it void space in the PDF that we have because we can't call things certain things. So in this Wildspace here, this is where some of the portals go because you're getting close. See these planar portals? There's some on the outside of the crystal sphere, like we talked about, and some on the inside that you can possibly travel to. They're color coded based on those outer planes that we also talked about. Cosmic portals are what you open. That's actually the name of the spell that the second level spell I talked about. If you wanted to fly on your material plane and you start going, and eventually you'll reach the edge, and then you cast that second level spell, Cosmic Portal, and it opens up, and now you're out into the outside. Now, technically, this image is a little bit wrong in that this would not look like starries. The inside would look like stars and stuff, like Black Night with stars and everything, and this outside would look like the Astral Sea. Slightly more colorful, silvery waves going around. Maybe we update this for the PDF, but anyway, the Astral Barrier, this is the Astral Sphere that we have this whole thing guarding this outside whole situation. And then one thing I did not talk about are astral domains. D&D calls them astral dominions. This is like little pocket dimensions of actual entire astral spheres. But imagine an astral sphere if you have an entire universe's astral sphere and you condense it down to like one kingdom. A lot of gods have astral domains that is entirely theirs, and this is the astral domain of whatever. And there's this entire city there just floating around in the astral sea, and it functions exactly like the crystal spheres we've talked about, but on a much smaller scale. And then you see here the distant astral spheres. There's Dragonlance, there's Eberron. There you go. So I hope that makes a little bit more sense now. I know this is really existential talk, but I personally, as a Dungeon Master, like to know how things work. As a player, I would like to know how things work. If you're a player, share this with your Dungeon Master. If you're a Dungeon Master wanting to run something like this, share this video with your players and see if they'd be even interested in something like, oh, do we want to travel? Do we want to do Spelljammer? How does it even work? Now, another thing I want to share from that PDF is how movement works, because movement works a little bit different when it comes to the Wildspace, which is the actual, like what we would see as space if we looked up to the sky. That kind of space, movement works a little bit differently there than it would on the material plane, of course. And movement works way different in you're talking about the Astral Sea. So if you're in void space or wild space or this space type of thing, there is no gravity. So your movement speed is whatever you could effectively do with no gravity. If you have wings and you're a flying creature, you can't fly. You're in space. Flapping your wings would do nothing. You know how that goes. So this is a very dangerous place. The wild space and everything, very dangerous place. Hopefully you have some sort of thing to propel you through this place, or magical flying or something. But that is how movement works there. Very much just real sciencey type gravity. And then passing on from that into the Astral Sea. Once you go through that layer and you're out there in the Astral Sea, You can actually breathe. Also, another thing, in Wildspace, there's no air, or the air is at least toxic. I go into a whole thing. There's 3 levels of air quality you have, and that you can start to suffocate in. That's all these types of mechanical things are in the PDF. And if you really do like this type of stuff, heavily recommend to check it out. My patrons during this month of December all get the PDF just for being a patron. There's different reward tiers for it. And if this is somehow past December, then you can check the link in the description for the actual website PDF. It's available on there. But anyway, Wildspace, very scary. Gravity, and you can't breathe. But then when you get into Astral Sea, you can move and you can breathe. It's kind of crazy. Everything becomes thought. Your body kind of fades away and it's all thought. Your movement is based on thought. So rules as written, the movement speed is 5 times your intelligence score, not your intelligence modifier, your score. So a regular person with a 10 intelligence of a +0 modifier, again, 10 intelligence score, times 5 is 50 movement speed, and you're flying all over the place super fast. And then a person that's maxed out their intelligence to a score of 20, times 5 is 100 feet of movement, and they're super zipping around. I don't like the times 5 thing. I feel like that's just too fast. I want the intelligent people to really feel faster than their normal counterpart. So I do a times 3. So a normal person with a 10 intelligence would have a 30-foot movement speed. Flying, of course, because you're flying through the Astral Sea. That just feels right. It feels absolutely right for times 3. And then it's the top end person with 20 times 3 is 60. They fly twice as fast, 60 feet of fly speed. Okay, cool. But times 3 can get you some weird numbers in some cases, but then I just round down to the closest increment of 5. Timeout. I got a giveaway for you guys that is out of this world. See, Spelljammer, get it? I hide all my giveaways at the end of videos because I really do appreciate when people stick around the whole time. I also make announcements about any sort of giveaways on my Patreon, because I appreciate the support of someone staying to the end of the video and the support of supporting me on Patreon, helped make this whole thing possible. So here's the giveaway. I'm giving away a full box set of all 3 of the Spelljammer books and that Dungeon Master screen all in one, and you get to pick any 2 D&D books you want to add into that to further customize, in the spirit of this homebrew channel, to customize what kind of books that you want to get. In fact, in the spirit of customization, I'm just going to change it to a $100 Amazon gift card that you can choose to buy what you want. And on top of that, you get a shopping spree on a friend of the channel's 3D miniature printing website. He has his own website where he 3D prints miniatures, super high quality. A lot of the miniatures I have are from him. You can go in there, pick what you want, I'll buy it for you, and he'll ship it right to your door. And it gets better because I'm actually doing 2 of these giveaways, and then timesing 2 on every single thing that we're doing. One giveaway is going to be for subscribers, like I'm saying. Thank you for sticking around to the end of the video and supporting what I do. And the other giveaway is the exact same stuff, all of the same things doubled, and that's for patrons. So down the very, very bottom of the description, there is the secret giveaway link. Go there, you can click around, get all the stuff. Each thing you do in that giveaway link gives you certain points. All the points you accumulate gives you a chance to win. The more points, the better. So for the big community one, all you gotta do is go click around those links. And for the patron one, all you gotta do is be a patron during the month of December. I'll make an announcement of who won and get in touch with you to be able to pick and choose all the stuff you want and ship it to your house. If you do live out of the United States, we might have to work on some things, and I'll either set up something for you digitally and you can get all those resources digitally, or we'll figure out how to make it happen and still get it to you. Happy holidays, and again, thank you so much. Okay, but there you go. If you like this kind of stuff, let me know. These videos usually don't tend to perform as well, so there's another follow-up video I could totally do on ship combat, how to build a ship, how to run a crew. There's all of these things are outlined in that PDF, so if you want to snag it up now, cool. If not, like up the video, help it out, and we will try and get that second one out there to show you how to build a ship, how to fight ships, customizing the ship with battle armaments to be able to fight and stuff. Lots of really fun stuff. Me and my team had an absolute blast doing this, and I hope it helps you with your Spelljammer, and I hope we've truly patched that gap that was left in Spelljammer, and we've truly provided something that's absolutely next level to help fill in all those gaps, so you can truly go out there in space and go Spelljam your butt off. So until next time, stay creative, think outside the box. Peace.